Welcome into Saw is War. My name is Dustin, and it is a great day to talk about wrestling because this weekend is WrestleMania 40, WrestleMania XL, which I'm betting is the only reason that they decided to keep the Roman numerals this long. I think they were like 35, maybe we should switch, and someone in the back was like, wait, WrestleMania 40 XL, gotta at least see it through. Don't be shocked if 41 they ditched the Roman numerals, but 40 XL just looks so good on all of the merch that I have seen people buying out of Philadelphia this weekend. I have seen insane amounts of merch, but that's not what this is all about. This is about WrestleMania, the biggest night in WWE, the Super Bowl, the season finale, if you will, however you want to look at it, the payoff to all of the stories that we have been watching. And this top to bottom looks like it is going to be an unbelievable night. Unbelievable 2 nights, I should say. We've got some huge matches up and down the board. I don't really see one that I'm not interested in. Like, this was like an interesting time because, like, sometimes with these shows, there's like, you know, the night that you're kind of leaning towards, like, okay, I have to be home for, you know, the night 2 match. But for this, I was like, hey, get everything done for the weekend now, Friday. Make sure I've got the schedule clear and I can sit back and watch because I really think that this is going to be just a solid 2 nights of wrestling. So I just wanted to hop on really quick, run through the cards for both nights, give some predictions, talk a little bit about, you know, some of the implications and things, and then get out of here because honestly, this is all about WrestleMania weekend. We gotta just sit back and watch and enjoy and see what's gonna happen. It looks like night 1 will be kicking off with Rhea Ripley defending the Women's World Championship against Becky Lynch in a match that has gotten really personal. This feud has escalated pretty quick. Not all of it has really worked for me. Like the stuff with Ariel Helwani and the MMA Hour show was really forced and just, it was, you know, I didn't really see the need for it, especially after the good in-ring segments that they had the last couple weeks. And following up, like, the really good CM Punk interview that Ariel Helwani did that, like, got a ton of coverage and really touched on a lot of things. So to go from such a open, honest interview to what was so obviously, like, a staged segment, it was a little jarring. And I don't know if that's part of why it didn't work for me, but everything else around this feud has been great. I think you can never really bet against Becky Lynch in matches like this, but I'm going to say Rhea Ripley retains. She has been on just an absolute rocket these last couple years especially, and I don't really see that changing anytime soon. Next up, we've got the 6-pack ladder match for the tag team titles with the stipulation that the match doesn't end until both sets of titles are brought down, which means they could be split up, one team can grab them all, who knows. But that kind of makes it seem a lot more likely that we are going back to the split titles, and this is a pretty good way to do it. So we have the Judgment Day, the Awesome Truth, which is Miz and R-Truth, we have the New Day, we have A-Town Down Under, we have New Catch Republic, who is Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. If you did not know that they were not calling them British Strong Style, which I don't really understand, and DIY, which is Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. Now, splitting the belts, if that's the plan here, I don't think they split the belts and take them completely off of the Judgment Day. I think they'll probably still hold on to the Monday Night titles, if I had to guess, but the SmackDown titles are interesting because I think there are a ton of ways they could go here that would be really interesting. Before this was announced as like, okay, one, like, you have to pull down both sets of titles, I really thought this was setting up for, like, Miz and R-Truth get that moment, and they're the ones that dethrone the Judgment Day, and then, like, the next week they lose them. But now that they're going this way with it, I think this is a great chance to reset the division with a team like DIY or New Catch Republic, who have all of the potential and all of the potential matchups, even, really, like a lot of combinations that we have not seen, and I think that could be a really good fresh restart for the SmackDown tag team division. So I'm gonna say, I'm really torn because I like both of these teams a lot. I'm gonna say New Catch Republic. Don't know why, maybe because DIY stays in feuds with Judgment Day on Raw, but I'm gonna say New Catch Republic SmackDown titles and Judgment Day Raw. Next up, we've got Rey Mysterio and his new tag team partner, Andrade, taking on Santos Escobar and Dirty Dom, Dominic Mysterio, the MVP of WWE. If you did not see SmackDown tonight, didn't really miss a whole lot. It was kind of a lot of summaries and filler and getting you ready for, the weekend. But there was an interesting development as Dragon Lee was seemingly taken out by someone. We don't know. Carlito just found him backstage. And now he will be replaced by Andrade, who has sided with Rey Mysterio and Selena Vega, his former valet when he was in NXT, and his first main roster run. And, I don't really understand not putting Dragon Lee in this spot unless he's actually hurt, because they've been really building a lot around Dragon Lee this whole time, like especially as Rey Mysterio was out with injuries. You think about Dom Mysterio's NXT North American Championship run, like a lot of it was centered around Dragon Lee. So for him to not get this moment is really disappointing, because I think him and Rey would have just had an insane chemistry and combination together as a tag team. But that said, Andrade is one of the best wrestlers, I think, on the planet right now. He is so smooth. Everything he does looks incredible. And he is going to bring a credibility to this match that I don't necessarily think Dragon Lee would have brought, just because he doesn't have the experience. We don't have the exposure to him. But all that to say, I think Rey and Andrade get the win, and we get that good feel-good moment as the Philly crowd is probably going to boo Dom Mysterio to death. Next listed, we have Jimmy vs. Jay, the Battle of the Usos, the singles match that both of them have talked about wanting to have since they were kids. So it's really cool that we've arrived here at this moment. Jey Uso is one of the biggest stars in wrestling. He has gotten yeet over as like one of the biggest catchphrases in wrestling, which is crazy to think about in the year 2024. But he is so naturally charismatic and funny and goofy, and his personality has just been on full display this whole run. It has been just so cool to see his elevation, and all of those reasons are why I think he's probably going to lose. I think this is the first of many matches in this feud. This seems like, of all the matches on this card, this seems like one of the most like tailor-made for the Backlash rematch match. So I think Jimmy gets the win here, and he gets the credibility that comes with it a bit, because it feels like Jimmy just went back and into the bloodline fold and everything, and has kind of just been there, and he doesn't have the definition that Jey Uso does. So to give him a big defining win like this on this stage goes a long way towards just kind of continuing to build his legitimacy in this new era of the bloodline and this new iteration. And it gives them another reason to keep Jey Uso away from any of the titles, because as soon as he's free from this, he's so popular and he's so good right now, it's not going to be a lot of explanations as to why he's not out there competing for any of the top titles. So I think Jimmy takes this one, and we get, the booing crowd with the no yeet and all that. It seems like a Jimmy win. Next up, we have the 6-woman tag match with Damage Control taking on Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, and Naomi. This is, all things considered, a gigantic spotlight for Jade Cargill and her debut after an impressive showcase at the Royal Rumble. I don't think there's any chance that they are losing this. I think it's probably going to be like not one-sided because of how strong Damage Control has been booked over the last year, but I cannot envision this team losing this match. I think all three of them are going to have incredible spots that show off their athleticism, their strength. I cannot wait to see what their entrances look like combined together, because Bianca Belair always has an incredible entrance for these big shows. Naomi, you can count on for all of the glow and the neon, and Jade Cargill looks like she has the best entrance in wrestling already, and we've seen it once. So I think this is going to be a lot more about what this does for these ladies in like after the match moving forward than this match itself. Next up, we have the singles match for the Intercontinental title between Sami Zayn and the champion Gunther. This is probably going to be one of, if not the match of the weekend, if I had to guess, because Sami Zayn might be one of the smartest wrestlers on the planet, and I don't mean that in like book smarts, anything like that. Like the intuition and the mind that he has for wrestling is probably close to unrivaled in the way everyone you hear when you hear anyone speak about him. They are talking about what a mind for wrestling he has, and just how well he sees things and senses things, and can work a crowd, and can really, play into what a crowd is wanting and what they're experiencing. He just knows. So you pair that with someone like Gunther, who is on a run that is close to unparalleled in terms of the work he's done to establish the IC title and to make it super relevant once again. He is the longest reigning IC champion for very good reasons, very deservedly so. I think the second Gunther loses, it immediately becomes a question of when is he going to get that world title, because he is someone that should absolutely be a mainstay in any championship scene. So that kind of pushes me towards Gunther, but I think this is going to be a Sami Zayn gets his moment, because I don't know who would come next to dethrone him, unless it was a debuting like Ilya Dragunov from NXT, someone like that. I just don't think that's in the cards anytime soon. So I think Sami Zayn makes a lot of sense. It opens Gunther up for a lot of new potential main event matches and combinations. And Sami Zayn can bring a completely different spin on the IC title that doesn't diminish the credibility that has been built up over this, 400 plus day reign. And lastly, we have the main event tag team match between the Bloodline, which is The Rock for the first time in 8 years, and Roman Reigns tagging together to take on Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, with the stipulation being if the Bloodline wins, it is a Bloodline rules main event Sunday night, and if Cody and Seth win, all Bloodline members are banned from ringside. That is a very convoluted stipulation set, and it kind of implores me to consider maybe Cody and Seth actually win this. So I'm betting if you asked everyone in Philadelphia getting ready to watch this show tomorrow, they would say there's no way that The Rock and Roman Reigns are losing this match, because why would you mention Bloodline rules and then not do a Bloodline rules match? But just as easily as I can picture a Bloodline rules match with all of these run-ins and all sorts of appearances and cameos and all of the things they've been hinting, I could also see it being Bloodline is banned from ringside, only to have, Solo and Jimmy kind of run in with hoodies and disguises and, cheat that way, to kind of build the heat that way. I think it's also a good chance, they do something like that, because then you get the shock of, what if, I don't think it would happen, but what if Jey Uso comes and, betrays Cody? What if, Seth Rollins turns on Cody? What, if that were to happen, if they were to lose tomorrow night, Saturday night, if The Rock and Roman lose and this becomes everyone's banned from ringside, get ready for some ultra chicanery with this. And I think that would be a pretty big indication that, Cody might actually lose on Sunday. I don't know for sure, because, well, you know what, I'll hold that because we'll get to that. I don't know. It feels too easy. It feels like as long as this match has been announced with this set of stipulations, it has basically been The Rock and Roman are winning night one to stack the odds against Cody even more, only for Cody to triumph somehow out over all of these odds. And, the obvious story isn't always the bad, sometimes the obvious story is the best story to tell. But with the approach that Triple H has taken as the head of creative and in all of this booking has been, does it sound cool? Does it make sense? Cool, let's do it. And I think that logic applies a lot here to it going in that order. Rock and Roman win, Bloodline rules, Cody overcomes. But it feels like so many people are predicting that and expecting that I could see it being, something that they're like, you know what, actually, let's switch it up. Let's do something different, because we don't want it to be too predictable. We don't want people to, be underwhelmed by the finish at all, if that's possible. So, I don't know. I think that that's a really compelling argument, and I understand. I'm still leaning Rock and Roman Reigns. I think they win night one, and I think it does set up the insurmountable odds But I would not be surprised if this is flipped on its head and Cody and Seth win and we enter night 2 with a lot more uncertainty. I think the night 1 match that I'm most excited for, outside of the main event, of course, is the 6-pack tag team ladder match, and then also the 6-woman tag team match. I'm really excited to see what Jade Cargill can do on the WWE stage in a bigger spotlight type match like this, as opposed to her spots in the Royal Rumble. She's obviously been in the Performance Center and training since they signed her. And Triple H talked a lot about, her being relatively inexperienced coming from AEW. It was like one of the more pointed, deliberate things that he said is she didn't really know what to do. So I'm really curious to see what the presentation is going to look like and what she's going to look like wrestling on TV again. If it's going to be a huge notable difference, or if this was all kind of just to build up and kind of explain why they were holding on debuting her. So I'm really curious to see what that match is going to look like as well. Now, before I hop into night 2, because it is a ton of predictions, I just want to talk about a couple AEW things this week. I do want to use this show going forward to talk about both and kind of touch on everything that's going on in wrestling. So a couple quick things. Like I mentioned earlier, CM Punk did an interview on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, where he kind of talked openly about a lot of his AEW experiences. And you've probably heard it, or at least seen some headlines from it, and it made a lot of noise. It was instantly everywhere. Seems like every wrestling page or wrestling adjacent thing that I followed was talking about this and putting clips out. I put clips out. I mean, it was everywhere. So AEW then comes back and opens Dynamite Wednesday with Adam Copeland coming out and giving a 10-minute promo on why he went to AEW, why the vibes at AEW were so good, and the competition at AEW being so world-class. And it felt like a giant pointed response to everything CM Punk had said, specifically the work environment and Tony Khan as a boss, or not a boss, depending, what you believe. I will say I'm proud that from what I could see, Tony did not just hop right on Twitter like he has before, but still dedicating the entire opening segment of your Wednesday show to be look how not bothered we are. It just, it was one of those things where I understand that they did it and they probably felt like they had to do it, but I don't know. I think it probably could have been just as good ignoring it and putting on the best show possible. But they opened with that segment, and then they went right into Will Ospreay and Will Hobbs, which was one of the best matches on all of TV this week. If you did not watch it, they put on a show. Powerhouse Hobbs is so good. He deserves so much more because he should consistently be on TV getting spotlight matches and multi-segment matches like that. Because him and Ospreay absolutely lit it up. And it was kind of weird to start the show with that because they were so good. It kind of felt like the rest of the show was chasing that, was trying to follow that up. But if you did not see that, I cannot recommend it enough. The Battle of the Wills was everything you would have hoped it to be. And then the last thing AEW-wise really was the shocking heel turn of Trent Beretta, who booted Orange Cassidy in the face following their loss to the Young Bucks. I don't know what this is going to mean going forward. It felt like the Best Friends was one of those safe gimmicks in AEW, kind of like Old Reliable, where you're going to have good over baby faces that can work with anybody on the roster when you need, a tag match, a multi-man match, anything like that. So a Trent Beretta, Orange Cassidy feud from a work rate standpoint is probably going to be incredible, because those are two of the most naturally gifted wrestlers, I think, on the roster. But storyline-wise, I'm really curious to see where they're going to take Trent Beretta, because it feels like if he just goes heel and it's just a discontent, malcontent heel going forward, it could be very easy for him to get lost in the shuffle after this Orange Cassidy feud. So I'll be curious to see what he's booked like in this feud, yes, of course, but specifically coming out of the feud. How does he look and where does he go? because it's interesting. I'm very curious to see what, a heel Trent Beretta, a heel Best Friends, if they turn Chuck Taylor as well. I'll be really curious to see what it looks like. I'm just having a hard time picturing it. All right, now that we've got AEW Corner, whatever you want to call it, out of the way, night 2 of WrestleMania, I'll just go through some quick predictions. I'm getting this up kind of late, so I just want to record it, make sure it's up in time for anyone to find it and check it out. So night 2, obviously a bunch of heavy hitters on this card as well. Really just speaks to the talent and the depth on the WWE roster right now, and on the credibility that they've all built over this recent run with Triple H at the helm. He's been, really good at these development feuds and kind of positioning people where they need to be, and you can see it now, even though they're not on the card, you can see it now if you watch like how he's been booking Ricochet, Bronson Reed, Candice LeRae on the women's side. Like they are really, you can tell, going to probably be pretty important moving forward after WrestleMania. WrestleMania Night 2 will be kicking off with Seth Rollins defending the World Heavyweight title versus Drew McIntyre, who is doing probably the best work of his career. He is incredible right now on this hater run that he's on, where he just like runs around and just embarrasses people on the mic and is just like a menace on Twitter. It's unbelievable. I am so glad that he gets to showcase this type of personality and not just be like the quintessential wrestling foreign heel. And obviously Seth Rollins gonna have the tag match the night before. The story has been about Seth Rollins not paying attention to Drew McIntyre. There might be an outside chance that Seth retains, especially with the announcement that CM Punk will be doing commentary for this match. But outside of Drew McIntyre gets distracted by Punk and loses after months of saying Seth was distracted, which, that kind of hubris, I could see it being, propelling the feud forward. But I think this is a Drew McIntyre night. I think he has been such a reliable MVP to the company for years now since he's come back, that to have this moment, to get this win in front of the fans, he's said it in multiple promos. It's not that he's not going to get the match he's deserving of. He's going to get the match that he earned over the years. So I think they go out there and that they, maybe have a little bit more one-sided a match than people might be expecting to, sell the effects of the tag match the night before and how spread thin Seth Rollins was. But I think Drew McIntyre wins this. And then, as an added prediction bonus, I think Damian Priest cashes in on Drew McIntyre. Maybe not necessarily here right after he wins, but in the near future, because I think if Drew McIntyre goes after Damian Priest robs him of the belt, and you set that off in motion on a feud, it makes it so much easier to just tweak Drew McIntyre's bit of, being a menace, being a hater, doing what he's doing now, and you just point it at Damian Priest, and all of a sudden he's a monster babyface again, and, you're off and running, because I don't think fans are going to want to boo him very long. I think that what he's doing right now is impressing and winning over a lot of people, and I'm sure he's going to get a fair amount of cheers coming into WrestleMania Night 2. So I think the faster you can turn him, with this version of him, like into an anti-hero, into a tweener, the faster you can do that, the better, because I don't think the crowd is going to let him be that heel figure much longer out after Night 2 is over. Next up, we have The Pride, which is Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, taking on the Final Testament, which is the Authors of Pain and Karrion Kross. The Final Testament has been a thorn in the side of the Pride for weeks, so this feels, it's a Philadelphia street fight. I did forget to mention that. Don't know what makes it different, what makes it Philadelphia, but it is a Philadelphia street fight between the two teams, and I think this is going to be a Street Profits, Bobby Lashley show everything you can do, and I think they get the win here. But even this being like a late edition and maybe not the most hyped thing on the card, the sheer talent involved makes me pretty confident that this is going to be a good match. Next up, we have another singles match on the card between LA Knight and AJ Styles. Another match that maybe has been going under the radar a little bit just because of all of the massive things happening across the company. But I really think that this is another one that has the potential to be, what we talk about coming out of the show. Like, oh man, did you see that AJ LA Knight match? AJ Styles is someone who has been positioned as, one of the sure hands in the company, one of the reliable performers where you're getting a great match. I think some have even said that he's been positioned as like, oh, well, if you don't have a title match, but you got the AJ Styles match, like, there you go, you're set. And I don't know quite if I agree with that, with him being at that, like, gatekeeper-y type of level. But I do think this is a great spot for LA Knight because the two of them can go out and put on a clinic. Both are probably going to be pretty over, but those chants in Philadelphia are going to be out of control. So I think this is an LA Knight win. Keep him white hot. I don't know what the future is going to hold for him coming out of this match, but I think the build to this feud has really elevated week by week by week. The stakes have gotten a bit higher, and as a result, the interest has gotten higher. So I'm really curious to see what is going to happen for both of these guys coming out of it, but I think LA Knight takes it. Next up, we have the triple threat match for the United States title between Logan Paul, the champion, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens. Now, all this build, Kevin Owens and Randy Orton have basically been talking about how much they hate Logan Paul, how they both hate Logan Paul, and how their mission is to beat up Logan Paul. And there's been no hints of dissension or one of them turning on the other to try to win. And that's probably just to save it for the match itself, because I'm sure that's going to happen at some point. I think that probably means it's more likely that Logan Paul retains based on star power and reputation. And just, having him out and about with the belt doesn't hurt either, I'm sure. I think, the other two guys make sense just from a week in, week out type of standpoint. Orton obviously has the credentials. He's got the legacy, pardon the pun, to carry a belt like that and to really do some good stuff with it. But I think a triple threat like this favors Logan Paul, and I don't think every babyface is going to win. So I'm going to say Logan Paul retains here in another really good match, because the combination of these guys brings a lot of unique opportunities. So I'm really curious to see what this is going to look like. Next up, we have the WWE Women's World Title match between Io Sky and Bayley. I thought this should have been one of the night's main events for night one before this tag match was announced between Bloodline and Rock and Seth. I really think this has a chance to be, one of the top 2 or 3 matches of the weekend. I think the story they've been telling has been great. I'm really curious to see if, they're going to have like the 3 from night one, Jade, Naomi, and a reluctant Bianca, try to come out and help if Damage Control gets involved, or what this match is going to look like since it is happening the other night after the 6-woman tag match. But I don't know. Like, Bayley is obviously someone that really deserves this high profile, high prominence match on WrestleMania. But, like, she seems like the type of person that, like, the type of wrestler that would be like, I'm just happy to do this. Like, this is awesome. I'll lose. That's fine. So, I don't know, because it doesn't feel like Io Sky has had the reign that she's probably deserving of quite yet. But I could see Bayley winning, feuding some more, and then maybe Io Sky gets the belt again. Like, I really don't know. I go back and forth with this because it's obvious Bayley doesn't need it, but she deserves it. And Io Sky is also just as talented and deserves a long credibility establishing reign as well. So I really don't know. I'm going to say Bayley for no other reason other than my wife really likes Bayley as well. So Bayley it is. We will be watching with bated breath, hoping. But this is one that I really am excited to see what they're going to do. And lastly, we have our main event for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, 2 running back the WrestleMania 39 main event. And I don't know. Like I said with night one, I really don't know now what to expect with this stipulation. Like if either way, this match is going to be out of control in terms of run-ins, interference, spots, just general schmaz. Like, it's going to be crazy. And I think it's going to be great because the match last year between them was really great. And then it had, the normal interference spots that the Bloodline matches kind of tend to have. But up until that point, it had been just a great, emotional, high-stakes match. So I could see that easily happening again, where they just go out there and they have a great match, but it's the complete opposite of what that first match was, and it's just full of run-ins and weapons and, just completely different and just tell a different story. But I don't know, I've been going back and forth on this. I think Cody Rhodes finishes the story because I don't know where they go with Cody next if he loses. And I do know that whether Roman Reigns wins or loses, they have this baked-in story with The Rock being, the High Chief and the Bloodline, and, you have the potential for this heel version of The Rock that has been incredible to say, Roman, you've shamed our entire family. We got you the stipulation. I've beaten Cody Rhodes down how many times? And you still lose. You're out. That's it. And then we get this new version, this new iteration of the Bloodline where it's, The Rock running things, and we get ultra babyface Roman Reigns eventually taking on The Rock for, maybe tribal chief status, anything. But all of that can happen without the title. Like, you don't need the title to make that such a huge, monumental match between the two of them. With Cody, if he loses, I would assume, for me at least, almost all of his credibility as, top guy for the company would be gone. And, that is to say, it's not to say that they couldn't build him up and get him a nice moment to win the title, but after the gut punch that was him not winning last year, to run it back and do it again, I don't know if people would be willing to invest the type of time and attention to the Cody Rhodes finish the story for a third year. Like, you can't have him come out and win a third Royal Rumble, a third main event, and then hope, the audience stays with you the whole time. Like, it just feels like they're hitting this weird tipping point where The Rock is the big bad. He's still going to get cheers because he's The Rock, and it's just going to happen. And then they'll boo him when he starts doing bad stuff. But this version of The Rock has been incredible. And as they push The Rock further and further into this, villainous, I'm actually one of the board members for the company. Like, not only am I a bad guy, I'm your boss. And this whole thing, you've got him cussing, whipping Cody Rhodes with the belt, bleeding him, all that stuff. It's pushing Roman Reigns out of that, like, menace status. So it feels like they're kind of setting him up because I don't know how much longer fans are going to want to boo him. They just had this great 2-hour documentary on A&E about him that painted him in a pretty positive light. So it's not like they're going to continue trying to, really play up how bad he is and to really play up and get him booed. So I think they run the risk. If they keep the belt on him for another year, then I think you're going to hit a point where people don't want to see Cody win because they like Roman Reigns now. So to me, the best way to mitigate all of it and to keep everything moving and to continue the story of the Bloodline is to have Cody win, have him go off on whatever side quest he's going to go off on with that belt once it happens, whether it's, the Raw after Mania, he gets attacked or who knows. But you tell the next chapter of the Bloodline story and it's about the Bloodline itself. It doesn't need the title, and it's literally a blood feud between The Rock, Roman, and whoever is going to side on whoever's side. Like, I can easily picture like a Jimmy Uso, Solo Sikoa, Rock Bloodline on one side, and then like a now babyface Roman going to Jey Uso, like, oh, I'm so sorry, everything I did, oh, it was terrible, will you help me? And, we go about it that way. All of this to say, I still don't know what's going to happen. I think night one will do a lot into informing it. And I'll try to hop on night one and then after night two as well. Some like quick reactions and, talking points, stuff like that. But other than that, I'm just, like I said, I'm really excited for this show. I think it's going to be top to bottom, one of the best in recent memory as far as WrestleManias go. And for night 2, I'm probably most excited, I think, for, of course, the main event. But then Io Sky Bailey, I think, is going to be great. And I think LA Knight AJ Styles. It doesn't have the stipulations some of the other matches do, but that just feels like it's going to be a good old-fashioned, like, man, these guys are out there wrestling. Like, they are doing the thing right now. And, you know, in between all of these 6-man, all the stipulation matches and everything, I think that's going to be a nice, refreshing change of pace in the day. That is everything. I've talked way too long already. I apologize. I hope, you know, anyone watching this enjoyed it. I appreciate anyone who found this, watched this. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, anything like that. It is crazy to see. Started this channel last year after WrestleMania, and to see, you know, how fast it's been able to build a little community has been really cool. It's been one of those surprises that I never would have expected, and now it's just cool to see. So I appreciate anyone watching. Let me know your predictions or what you want to see from the nights, which night you're most excited for, anything like that, please. And then I will leave an email as well in the description if you want to send in any thoughts, anything like that, or comment them. Either way is totally fine. I appreciate anyone watching. Thank you so much, and enjoy WrestleMania weekend.